Welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase of the Barn with me and Gary, a series of the Furiously Curious show where we talk about business, life, Christianity, and more. Episode 42 or 41. Not sure. One of those two.
Oh no, we keep doing off recordings on weird days just so Kyle doesn't drop the bonus episode. So that's why I'm doing it anyways.
The bonus episode is where we answer talk about sex, and Gary's just like, we're just going to push that off. Especially his answers, which are very funny. How did you enjoy Freedom Sessions Grad last night?
It's exhausting.
It is tiring, isn't it?
Oh, hearing that much personal stuff, it's just like...
So if you don't know what Freedom Sessions is, it's a discipleship journey program, 28 weeks, that helps you get freedom. And the last evening is and in its sake, has an opportunity to share what has changed for them, what has done for them. And so there was probably 20, 30 people sharing last night?
Yeah. It's basically 22 and 23 each time. We had a grad last week too. Felt like the grad this week was more, I felt like people were a little more comfortable sharing.
Yeah. There's definitely some pretty heavy stories.
Oh yeah.
So I shared as well.
Yeah, you did great. I had one guy come up afterwards muttering to me, if I would have known ahead of time, I would have never signed up for this. Well, he wouldn't have signed up, wouldn't even have went, right? That's why I really struggle with talking too much about it, actually, about what's involved. Because it's one of those journeys where each step builds on each other and people just need to do it's no different than anything else in life. You got to walk before you run, right? So
I also believe more never is something that you've been saying for a while, which is weird. You know, like, why would I believe something Gary says for a while? But if you want to do it, you'll do it. And the people that don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. And you can't make a horse drink. You just can't force people You have to be like, hey, enough's enough. And I want to.
My cousin Johnny has a saying, which is probably the saying I come to the most in life in all areas, not just in Freedom Session, but you cannot help those that can't help themselves. Now
is that why he doesn't take Freedom Session?
That's why he doesn't help anybody, because they can't help themselves. No, he helps lots of people, but if somebody is incapable of seeing anything themselves and you think it's very clear to you the answers, like if somebody is in a business and their business is floundering, and to you it's like, hey, if you just did this different and that different, and you think, oh, I'm going to go help them, give them some knowledge, help them. Typically the people, as a general rule, and it probably doesn't apply for everybody, but if someone can't see any of it themselves, it won't help if you get involved.
Oh, that way, yeah.
Yeah. So I've had people lately that I've been kind of walking alongside, and what happens is I come in, I give them I'll lay out a bit of a plan, and they'll take 30% of my plan, right? Probably the easiest 30%. Do it and then wonder why it's not working. Well, it's because you just did what kind of worked for you in that moment. It's like, no, you have to execute on all of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting how, especially in business, I find it's like, hey, people have, obviously we're all struggling in some sense, or there's things we can do better, but it was just fascinating how, you got to do the hard stuff, right? And
that's why I think coaching is so powerful, because you're not coming in doing that. You're coming in saying, like, what do you actually want? Where is what you're doing?
And eventually they should realize it themselves, what they need to change.
That's right, yeah.
And that's similar to Freedom Session, right?
That's right.
Eventually you get to that spot where you're, doing your authentic life plan. In the back of the course, there's a third book, and it's very much like daily stuff. Yeah.
Because a lot of coaching is actually accountability type coaching, where you're just like, hey, you
babysitting.
Or you acknowledge a bunch of problems, and then the coach asks the next week, so have you done these things? And the guy says, yeah, I did them, or didn't do them, whatever. But then as soon as the coach is gone, well, then you go back to all your own crap again, or your old habits. Well, then there's no change there, right? You're just like, and so it has to come from yourself, like we're the driver of it. So,
do you have a busy week? Feels like you had a crazy week, because Tuesday we were going to record and you pushed off.
Yeah, what I was really most struggling this week was reading all those papers that I came from when I was in the psych ward as a little kid.
Did you read them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was really hard to read.
Okay.
And it definitely rattled me pretty hard. I never read them before, and just like seeing what was said about me and what the doctors were saying and what was being said to my parents and all of that. And then because I also had knew 3 or 4 days later, I had to
talk on Thursday
night and give my Freedom Session grad, which this year I just did a lot of forgiveness work on myself and others, and just hurts and pains. And so it was just like, I was all over the place. I couldn't, I was struggling pretty hard. But then on Wednesday night, I wrote it all out finally. And the process of writing out the testimony,
it was healthy too.
That's that's when all of a sudden it felt way better. I just felt like I had 4 hours of sleep yesterday, and I was fine because I was just like I felt so much peace, and so yeah.
I was surprised. Most people write it out.
If I don't write it out, man, I'm going to say something I do not want to say.
Okay.
I've known myself enough that I'm like, okay, I want to be pretty intentional
about what comes out of your mouth. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought people were, just really vulnerable, right? And for me, because this year I didn't lead a small group, I've said that to you before, I felt very disconnected from the journey to some degree. And then it's kind of like brings it right home when you hear people and hear their stuff. And there's quite a few people that spoke pretty critically to me about the journey early on, and were, because I'm a big tire pumper, right? And they're like, they're complaining and saying that they hate it, which, I mean, it makes sense. So then to hear those people go up there and speak pretty positively about it and encourage others to walk the hard road is pretty cool. So I'll be curious to see how next year looks. We'll get going again in September. For those that had somebody reach out to me yesterday morning, 60-year-old guy, has gone to church ever until like a year or two ago. He started going to church. Salvation Army Church, and somebody put him in touch with me, and he called me in the morning, and then he came to the Grad at night, and he's coming next year. So
talked to a friend afterwards last night, and I think the biggest thing I think is cool is that, the testimonies are cool, but a couple of days later, you forget about them. The ones that you hear, and you kind of forget it, even about how hard freedom session is if you have done it being a participant. But the actual freedom that people walk in that's life changing. Right? Like, one person was sharing last night how much happier they are as a mom, and how much
lighter version. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Like,
that was pretty cool.
Imagine like you're a husband or a dad or a mom or a boss or an employee, and you're just way lighter, and the people around you just
appreciate that. That is a gift to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny, we all want to be that. Nobody wants to be a nagging or critical person, or like nobody's like, oh, sign me up to be that. But we just are, because we're human beings, and we have a lot of crap that we got to deal with, right? So it's pretty special.
So it's that kind of stuff where I think about, I'm like, wow, this is now going to trickle down to like your kids, your grandkids, like to all these people. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value, getting more guests on, and me being able to spend more time and energy towards it. So if you're interested in doing that, you can click up here, and it'll take you to a support page. But you can also subscribe to the podcast by clicking over here and doing that. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.